Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Guns N' Roses Central, and let's talk about this week's news. So, as you guys know, Duff McKagan's solo record Tenderness finally came out. I'm so glad he's pretty much done doing press for it because it's been brutal trying to listen to his interviews because it's the same boring stuff. You know, he wrote it when he was on the road with Guns N' Roses. He reads a lot of books. He travels a lot and talks to people. And when he talks to people, there's no political divide, yada, yada, yada. It's finally here, and here's what critics had to say about it. And before I get to that, I will say it's actually a pretty decent record. I was pleasantly surprised by how much I actually enjoyed it, at least from what I've listened to so far. And the critics have agreed. So overwhelmingly, they like the album. So at the time of recording this, it has a Metacritic score of 81. So Metacritic takes all the reviews and then averages them out. So here's what some of the critics are saying. So Kerrang gave it an 80 out of 100. They said country fueled it may be, rather than the expected full pelt rock, but so open is the letter that it easily succeeds in transcending genres. While Classic Rock Magazine gave it the same score, saying what is surprising is just how good it is. All Music gave it the same score, saying older, wiser, and more concerned with the greater good than selfish excess. Duff McKagan's punk edge hasn't left him, but instead has been refined into a loving worldview that believes there's still a chance for humanity. This bright outlook combines nicely with some of the strongest and most disarming songwriting of McKagan's winding career. A couple other ones. Rolling Stones gave it a 70 out of 100, saying Tenderness is a grand gesture that works. Woke looks good on Duff. Now, keeping in mind, I wouldn't put any stock in what Rolling Stone says. They would always give Yoko Ono's albums 4 out of 5. But overall, people like the album, and I think it's definitely worth a listen. But people should be aware it is a lot different than his past records he's done, especially his first solo record, Believe in Me. And if you guys are expecting something to sound like Guns N' Roses, it's not going to. It's got a very southern kind of feel to it. It's a much slower and softer kind of record. But go in with an open mind, and you guys will probably find stuff to enjoy here. Turning now to some of the bigger Guns N' Roses news this week. So I had predicted it a while back, saying if Guns are going to announce any more tour dates, I'm sure Mexico is going to be included on there because they've played Mexico. I think this is their 4th or 5th time they're going to be playing Mexico. So they announced 2 more shows this upcoming fall. One's going to be taking place in Guadalajara on October 18th, and then the second one's going to be taking place in Tijuana on October 20th. And I don't know if Guns have ever played Tijuana before. It's pretty close to California, and I kind of wonder if they're going to add some LA shows as well. So that makes 5 total shows they are playing this coming fall. They're kicking things off with the Louder Than Life Festival in Kentucky. Then they're going to be playing the Austin City Limits Festival. Then they'll be playing the Exit 111 Festival, and then Guadalajara and Tijuana. And they're spaced out enough that they could add some more tour dates. Who knows, maybe they'll add some LA dates there towards the end of the tour. So going back to the other Duff news, of course, he's kicked off his tour. He played his first show, I think it was in Philadelphia. And there were some surprises in the set list. So Shooter Jennings hinted that they were going to play some GNR stuff. And they did play some deeper cuts that they hadn't played on the Not in This Lifetime tour. So Duff played Dead Horse. He didn't sing lead vocal. I'm just trying to remember. Did he sing lead vocals? I think he shared some of the vocals with the lady in the band, and Shooter's band. And then they also did Dust and Bones. And Dead Horse was kind of funny to watch, and you guys can go on YouTube and check it out. Duff forgot some of the lyrics. He hasn't played the song in like 25 years, at least at this point in time. And they also did a cover of Mad Season's River of Deceit. But as somebody who loves Mad Season, if you watch my other YouTube channel, Rock and Roll True Stories, his cover was horrible to say the least. But I think he's just trying to pay tribute to Mad Season because he was friends with the guys from Alice in Chains. But it's kind of nice he's throwing in some deeper cuts from GNR, and who knows, maybe they'll make their way into the shows this fall. But maybe he'll be playing some more GNR songs that we haven't heard in a while on future dates in his tour. And I should also add, they did play the Guns N' Roses song You Ain't the First, but in a lot of headlines or news stories that were covering this concert, they never brought that song up because that song hasn't been played since 1993 as far as I know anyways. So turning now to some other news. So Slash was giving an interview on 101 WRIF. It was the same radio station where he confirmed that Guns N' Roses had in fact begun work on their next record. And he also talked a bit about his split-second portrayal in the Motley Crue biopic The Dirt. So the host asked him, now I know you've talked a bit about this before, but have you seen The Dirt and stuff? Is that supposed to be you in the one scene with Nikki Sixx? So if you guys have seen the movie, towards the end where Nicky has his overdose, you can see Slash and Steven Adler for a brief second. Slash is easier to point out because he's lying on the couch, and I don't think it's the best impersonation of him. So Slash said, yeah, actually I talked to Nicky and he told me there was something in the movie before I saw it. I've taken, and then there's like, it's kind of hard to understand the interview because he's doing it over the phone. He said, I've taken it, and then it goes inaudible or something, and I saw the movie and went, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there is some truth to that. We were staying at the Franklin Apartments, and Nicky, myself, Steven Adler, and my friend Mark Mansfield had gone to the Cat House. Mark had known that we were getting some smack, and we went to the Franklin Apartments. I was drunk, so I passed out, and my girlfriend woke me up telling me that Nicky had OD'd and was in the next apartment over. So Mark Mansfield, the one who had the smack, then took off, and the paramedics came, and they had to put me in the shower so I was coherent enough, and it ruined the whole thing. So there's an update on the Guns N' Roses lawsuit over the beer maker Oskar Blues over trademark infringement. So as it turns out in the latest news that came out about the lawsuit, Guns N' Roses doesn't own the trademark for Guns N' Roses, at least for their name, when it comes to beverages. And now Guns N' Roses is claiming that it is famous enough to warrant additional legal protection. So according to Forbes, in December, a GNR representative contacted Oskar Blues CEO to express concerns, but the only thing that came of the conversation was a cease and desist letter from GNR asserting its rights in the trademark for use with the clothing, musical sound recordings, and musical performances. So a month later, in January of 2019, Oskar Blues responded via counsel, noting that the band did not own the trademark for alcoholic beverages and that the company didn't believe that there was any trademark dilution or likelihood of confusion. So their lawyer said, we trust that our response resolves this matter. But Guns N' Roses didn't feel like their matter was resolved through the letter's terse and conclusory terms. However, and after Oskar Blues began marketing and selling its beer in February of 2019, the band sent another letter to the brewery in March requesting basically them stopping the sales of the beer with Guns N' Roses, as it was called, or Guns N' Roses it was called, but still allowing for the possibility of an out-of-court solution. So Guns N' Roses was open to settling out of court, and then the band claimed that they were famous enough to warrant additional legal protection because they didn't own the trademark for alcoholic beverages. So this is pretty common for certain things like trademark law does recognize that certain famous marks, those that are immediately recognizable by the general public as a source of a product or service, warrant that additional legal protection, including, Apple, Nike, and Google, but it hasn't really happened with a band. So Oskar Blues wasn't convinced of GNR's famous argument, and they responded saying, we see no evidence that your client has reached a level of fame to warrant the extraordinary remedies of the Trademark Dilution Revision Act of 2006, their attorney said. The attorney went on to say that Oskar Blues was now willing to cease sales of Guns N' Roses beer and related merchandise, but not before March of 2020, noting that the nearly 2-month delay in the band's response to the brewery January letter has caused significant prejudice to Oskar Blues, saying, had my client known prior to the release that your client had continued objections, it could have considered other arrangements. At this point, rebranding and repackaging its beer requires significant time, effort, and expense. So Guns N' Roses wasn't too pleased with this answer and then filed a trademark infringement lawsuit in early May demanding full damages. So it's kind of funny that Guns N' Roses were once again late for something, because the same thing happened to Axl when he tried to sue Guitar Hero, and his pretty much his case fell apart because he was too late in filing his lawsuit. So that does it for today's news, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below.